Tonight, I spin it, I win it, and then I bin it. Hello and welcome to Cowdenbeath Racing. On this episode, we'll take a look at the damage received at the last meeting, courtesy of a trip to the wall, which if you haven't seen already is available over on the channel. Now in Heat 2, on the last lap, we took a trip to the wall, which bent the front steering arm and also the rear axle. Now the front steering arm we were able to fix at the track, however the rear axle being bent, we opted just to leave it, try it in the final, and then fix it once we were back at the unit. So as you can see here, this outside rear wheel, there is a lot of toe out on this wheel, so the rear axle being bent is the cause of this. So tonight we're going to take a look at repairing this. So we'll get the rear axle off and then we'll have a look and see if we can straighten this back up and get the rear axle so it's running parallel again. So looking at the rear axle, now we've got it off the car. Outside here, you can see the bend in the axle there itself. If you look at the inside, this is how this corner should look, nice and straight across the 45 degrees here. Where this side is bent in. So we've got to have a look, we've got this axle, we've got another axle sitting that I think's got a bend in it as well. So we've got to bring them across, see which one's the best, and we'll fix one of them and get it back on the car. So now we're starting to put the rear axle back in. This is the axle that we had lying spare, it's not the one that was originally on the car. This one was in slightly better condition, so we thought we would just sort this one out and get this one on the car. We also found that this one had brand new bushes in it, which we had fitted when this was originally on the car. And when this one got bent, we were tight for time, so it's quicker just to change the axle over to the one that we had straight. But this time round we're dealing with two bent axles, so it's the best of a bad situation. With a bit of luck we've got this as close to straight as we can get it, and once we get the wheel on we'll measure it up and hopefully it's pretty much straight. If not, we'll go to plan B, but I don't know what plan B is yet. So it's now Bank Holiday Monday, the 26th of May. We're down here to get the Fiesta finished off, ready for this weekend's racing at Cowdenbeath on Saturday, Crimmond on Sunday. And then the main project today is to get the Clio as close to ready as we can, so that on the 14th of June, the non-point scoring meeting at Cowdenbeath, we can get the car out, get a feel for it, make sure everything's how we want it. If there's any adjustments need made, they can be made, ready for the 18th of June for a retake to Knock Hill. So we're now underneath the Fiesta. We've just cracked this bleed nipple. With us having the rear axle off to replace the rear axle, we had to split this brake pipe because it goes through the axle just here. So we've now cracked the bleed nipple, we've got the pressure bleeder on it. We'll just let that sit for a little bit just to make sure there's no air in the system, and we'll do the same with the other side, and then hopefully the brake should be pretty good on the back. So now the Fiesta is ready for this weekend racing, we can crack on with the Clio. We're going to get the rest of the engine put together with the coolant pipes, the fuel lines, the wiring, get all that sorted out, hopefully get the car running by the end of the day, and that'll be her mechanically ready to go for the 14th of June. And that just leaves us with painting the car, getting our sign written, getting the seat finished, and she should be ready to go. So after a bit of wiggling around, we've got the pin in. This comes right through at the back. Just lets us know that we've got the rod here that goes up to the gear stick connected to the selector, and it's all in the right place. If this is out, you'll struggle to find gears. So before we took this off, we drilled a little hole through, put the drill bit through, and that's where we know a quick way of knowing where this needs to be sitting, so that the gears and everything should work as they need to. So we're now just putting the exhaust back on. So we've just got 3 bolts here, these just need nipped up. Got a new gasket on there, so hopefully no leaks from there. Once we get that on, we can get the rest of the exhaust on, and then we'll start looking at getting the coolant pipes, which we've got sitting here. They're all sort of in place. Get the radiator back in at the front here, and then we can start looking at getting the fuel lines. We've got this one here, but that's just a guide as to where it's got to go, and then we'll get the wiring and stuff sorted out as well. So the radiator that was in the car was an old one that looked like it had been leaking at some point, so we opted to replace the radiator and fit a brand new radiator to the car, just to make sure there's no issues once we get the car up and running. Now the engine's all wired up and the coolant pipes and everything's in, we can move on and get the drive shafts fitted. While I'm doing that, my dad's there, he's fitting the fuel pump and getting the fuel lines and wiring for that all put into place, and then we can hopefully get the car started. So it's now Thursday night, we're on our way down to the unit to carry some checks on the car. Basically just check it all over, make sure we've not missed anything. Make sure all the nuts and bolts for the steering and suspension are all tight. That rear axle, will double check everything on that. Make sure I've not left anything loose. And then we'll take a look. The weather's looking rather wet at the weekend at both tracks. So we'll get some tyres picked out. Get them onto the trailer. Get the ones that we're going to run at Cowdenbeath onto the car if we're confident enough with the weather. So the first thing we done was get the wheels off and check all the steering and suspension on the front. All we're doing here is checking that all the nuts and bolts are tight and everything's how it should be, ready for the first race. We then moved on to the rear axle and checked all the bolts on the rear axle, and also the brake lines and handbrake cables, etc., to make sure everything was back connected correctly and ready to go. The next check we carried out was the tyre pressures, setting them how we would want them for the first race, predicting a wet first race. So we've set all them, and then we move on to the tracking, checking the front, adjusting the tracking to what we want it at, giving the car a roll back and forward just to let everything settle back in, and then rechecking the front tracking there. And then we move on to the tracking at the back and just double check that after repairing the axle, and surprisingly it came out that the rear axle was pretty much straight. So it's now race day. We're on our way down to the unit to get loaded up. We've got tools and spares and stuff to load into the van, get the car on the trailer and then head along. Practice is 4 till 5, so we're going along to try and get a practice. As it stands now, it's nice and sunny, but the weather forecast predicts rain and some thunderstorms later on, so we actually wanted to be wet tonight. It's been a while since we had a good wet meeting, and the Fiesta just doesn't seem to be quite there in the dry, sorry. So we were kind of hoping for a wet meeting to see if we could get some points in, but it'll be what it'll be. So when we arrived at the track, the conditions were still dry, so we opted to leave practice and just see how we got in the race. But just before practice started, at about 5 to 4, the heavens opened, as you can see. So we just went up and took a look at the cars that were out practicing to see how they were getting on. The track was wet for practice, however with a break in the rain the track was slowly starting to dry out. It was looking like it was going to be a breezy first heat. So as we get underway for heat number 1, you can see the track is still very greasy, although the sun is out, so hopefully it will dry up as the meeting goes on. Going into the first bend, we get a poor start and don't really make much of a move on the red roofs. However, it wouldn't be long till the first yellow flag came out and we got a little restart. This time when the green flag flies, we get straight up the inside of the 240 car coming onto the home straight. Coming into turn 3, we take a look up the inside of the 331 car, but just aren't quite close enough to make the move stick. I get a good run out the pit bend and get up the inside of the 331 car and through for position going along the home straight. So now we've got some clear air ahead of us. We're just trying to find the grip on the track, whether it be on the inside or the outside. So as you're going round, you're just trying different lines into the corners to see where is best and where the grip in. You can see on the video here there is dry lines forming on that outside. However, for me personally at this point, I still felt that the grip with the car was on the inside of the track. Especially coming out of turn 4 here, I felt like there was a lot of grip on that inside line and the car really felt like it was pulling along the straight. Whereas coming onto the back straight, it wasn't quite as keen to get the power down without the wheel spin. As Heat 2 gets underway, you can see that the track has dried out a fair bit compared to Heat 1. Now we did decide before the race to put the dry tyres back on and give it a go, and it turned out to be the right decision for this race. Coming on to the back straight, the 700 car looks to outside the 331. I looked to follow, however the 331 car had other ideas, taking the 700 car out and then turning out and taking me out as well. Now at this point the car had cut out, so I was trying to get it started again to try and get myself to safety and again try and rejoin the race. But for some reason the car would not start. The rest of the cars went round on a good 2 or 3 laps before the car finally started up. And I still don't know why it didn't start up. So we got going anyway, we got back into the safety area and then we turned around and got going again. However by that point the race was finished. So it's final time, and as you can see we've had another downpour of rain, making the track very wet and greasy once again. So the wet tyres were back on, and we just had to take it easy and see how we got on in this one. Now as you can see, coming along the back straight, visibility ahead is very poor. The sun reflecting off the water on the track, making it very difficult to see anything coming into that corner. Coming onto the home straight, the 420 car loses it just ahead, and as we look to go to the inside thinking he would go backwards, he spins right in front of us and stops us dead in our track. So we have to reverse and get the car going again, losing quite a lot of time and in quite a few places. We were really struggling to find grip in this race, and as you can see here, 14 James Payton passes us and puts us a lap down as he's the race leader. What formula is that? Well done.
Where she's stock car crazy, she's hot rod mad. The stock car racing game has taken all the sense she had. She's
So we're now driving out on track for heat number 1 at Crim Raceway. Now the weather forecast was for rain, however as you can see the track's dry and there's no signs of rain in the sky. So the green flag comes out and the 50 car doesn't move, however once we got by she did get herself going. So we've already gained a place and we've only done half a lap. Coming along the back straight, we go to the outside of the 171 car. Now with the 71 car sitting midway round the corner, we knew if we could get in and hold that outside line we would be able to make the pass on both cars round that bend. So we're now catching up with the top 3 drivers here, with 110 Mark Binney going round the outside line and allowing us up the inside here and through into 3rd position. The top 2 battling ahead have held each other up a little bit and this has let us close the gap right in and start to put the pressure on those 2.
Great progress from the back of the field up into the 3rd place, all over the back of the 2 race leaders.
We're now battling with the 81 car who's sitting in 2nd place. We try the outside line but he's wise to that, and then we try to cut back across to get up the inside, but again he's wise to it and holds the inside line. Going into the next bend we try the same move again, but this time he slides a little bit wide coming onto the back straight and gives us the space up the inside and through for the line round the track shot bend. So as Heat 2 gets underway, I would just like to take a little second to thank Cal and Benny for coming across and having a little chat with us before the race got underway. So we've now caught up with the first of the blue roofs, 171 Clio Wood, and we managed to get up the inside of her coming into the track shop bend and get through, and now we can focus on chasing down the rest of those blue roofs. So as 50 and 309 continue to battle, the 309 car looks to go round the outside of the 50 car on the pit bend. However, she runs a bit wide and that lets us up and through and get ourselves in between those two blue roofs. Coming along the home straight, the 50 car gets the inside line on 110 Mark Binney, so we just follow her through and we're through into third position. The 50 car looks to the outside the 81, however that opens up a gap for us. We get up the inside and through into second place. So 81 was still leading and we were coming around to take the last lap board. There was only one way we were going to get by it, and that was to try the outside line. We got a good run along the home straight and into the pit bend we get alongside, and then coming along the back straight we get another good run and edge ahead going into the track shop bend. We get a little tap from him coming into the corner as he tries to defend the inside line, however we managed to hold on and take the checkered flag for the win. So the final gets underway and it had been quite a successful day so far, so just to finish this race and take some more points home would be nice. Coming onto the back straight, we don't waste any time and get straight out to that outside line and get round the outside of the 171 car. So up ahead, 81 and 50 are battling it out for the position, and as we close up, we're just trying to work out which way they're going to go so we can try and make a move to get through. Coming onto the back straight, 50 and 81 start to tangle, so we go straight to the outside to try and make a move around the outside. Now you can see they're still tangling all the way around the corner, and then coming onto the home straight, it all goes wrong. So the 81 car overcorrects it, collects me, I collect the tyres and up onto my side. A spectacular way to round out a meeting which we thought would be the last one for the Fiesta.
Callum, all okay down here on the home straight. Good to see he is all okay.
That's it for this one. Huge thanks to all the sponsors who make this possible, and a massive shout to the team behind the car for all the hard work week in, week out. I couldn't do it without you. Thanks to you for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like the video, share it with your mates and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. There's more action coming soon, so stay tuned.